Darren Jones, is there anything beyond that which we've been reporting on Sky News that you can tell us about the suspension of the Labour MP Dan Norris?
No, clearly we're all shocked and personally saddened by the serious allegations that have been made. It's right that the Labour Party suspended the whip immediately when the police informed the party of Dan Norris's arrest. But as the police have said, this is a sensitive investigation and we shouldn't be commenting further at this stage.
Thank you. Well, there's another story that's coming overnight. What does the government know now about deportation of 2 Labour MPs from Israel?
So we know that there were 2 Labour MPs who were on a parliamentary delegation to Israel who, for reasons I'm not aware of at this stage, were held at the airport on arrival. They're now on the way home to the United Kingdom, but the Foreign Secretary has spoken to his counterpart in the Israeli government overnight to say that clearly it's unacceptable for British members of Parliament on a parliamentary delegation to be detained in that way.
As far as we know, they were part of a delegation, so presumably the others went through. Is there anything that we know about these 2 particular MPs that might suggest why they would have been picked out?
I don't know at this stage, I'm afraid, Trevor. Maybe more details will become available when my colleagues return back into the UK later today.
All right, well, let's talk about your own territory, which is the economy and so on. In less than 24 hours, the financial markets open in London. Following Mr. Trump's actions this week, what is your message to the markets?
Well, look, as the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, the whole of the government has shown, even when there's a lot going on in the world, and we've seen the world changing rapidly in recent months, the UK is a stable country with a clear policy and a strong government, and we will always act in the interest of the British people and the British economy, and we'll do so in a calm-headed and considered way. We've been very clear a trade war is in no one's interests. Evidently, things are happening in the world that we can't control, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the UK is in as strong and as resilient a place as it can be. Well,
the Prime Minister's written in the national newspaper this morning an op-ed which could be summed up as keep calm and carry on. But actually, we heard that Jaguar Land Rover has decided to halt exports to the largest market, the United States of America. They employ, I think, tens of thousands of people here. Surely this needs a little bit more than, don't worry, it'll get sorted out.
To be fair to the Prime Minister, his op-ed, I think, in The Telegraph you're referring to, Trevor, was more than just keep calm and carry on. It's important that we keep calm and do these things in a sensible way. But the Prime Minister's op-ed today was very clear that he thinks globalisation has failed in the current context and that we need to go further and faster in supporting British industry and the British economy. And he'll be saying more about that this week. But I think it's clear that over the last week and the last few months in government, whether it's the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, the Business Secretary, the whole of government, we've been engaging closely with businesses to make sure that we can understand what we can do to support them and support British industry and British jobs.
Oh, so we can expect a definitive or a definite response to the Trump tariffs this week from our government?
There'll be further announcements from the Prime Minister this week on support for British business, building off of the engagement that we've been having with them over the last weeks and months.
So there will be a response?
The Prime Minister will be saying more later this week, yeah.
Well, let's talk about what the Prime Minister said. And I'm going to quote the only authority who knows what's in the Prime Minister's mind, because they've been talking. The President of the United States says that our Prime Minister is, I'm quoting here, happy with the way the UK was treated on tariffs. Is that right?
Keir has been clear that he is unhappy about the tariffs and broadly unhappy about...
the President's got it wrong?
Broadly unhappy about, tariffs in what was a well-functioning global trading system. I suspect what's being referred to there is the fact that the United Kingdom had the lowest tariff and puts us in a much stronger position than other complex, large economies, which we think was a vindication of our engagement with the United States in the run-up to the President's announcements. But clearly, we don't like tariffs. We're not happy about that. We're now negotiating this economic deal because we would like to be in a better
This is all a bit, I say tomato, you say tomato, isn't it? The President says that the Prime Minister is happy. You're telling me the Prime Minister is unhappy.
Well, look, I don't speak for the President of the United States. I can speak on behalf of the Prime Minister and the government. And as I said, as we've said publicly, we're not happy about the tariff situation, but We do think we're in a better place than other countries at this starting point. We're going to continue to negotiate on that economic deal and get the best deal for Britain.
Well, let's talk about those negotiations. Your colleagues have been coming into studio for weeks and weeks, and they've been nodding mysteriously every time I ask them about this possibility of a trade deal with the United States, hinting we might be made an exception. Well, there was no exception this week. How's this trade deal going?
Well, it's ongoing, and I have to break it to you. I can't give you a running commentary on what's in it, what's not in it.
I'm not asking for a running commentary, just asking, when are we going to get one?
Well, you may have more mysterious nodding. I mean, the good news is our negotiators have been in a very strong position from the start because they had been negotiating with our American counterparts way in advance of the tariffs coming into force. We've already got a strong relationship with the United States, as you know, a balanced trading relationship. But there's things we can go further on. That's in the interest of the British economy and the American economy, and that's what our negotiators are currently doing.
Well, look, I mean, you know, this whole strong relationships thing, most countries this week got the same treatment as we did. Brazil, Armenia, Burundi, Niger. None of them's got a king to offer a state visit. Iran, Afghanistan, the USA is pretty much in a permanent standoff with those two. They all got 10%. Where's this confidence that you have that we've got some special thing that's going to produce a great deal?
Well, our relationship is very different, the United States, to all of those countries, whether it's on security and
but the point of the outcome is the same.
Or trade, the trade surplus we have with the United States. We are a large, complex economy, one of the richest economies in the world. And actually, if you were to compare the UK to other similar countries, you'll see that we had a better starting deal. But as I say, we don't...
But I don't have to. We all got 10%. They didn't treat us any differently.
European Union, 20%, China, 36%. Other large, complex economies, wealthy nations were treated differently. But as I say, we don't say this with any glee. We're not happy about the tariff situation. We don't think it's good for global trade or the global economy, but it does just represent the facts. And now we need to get on and try and get this deal over the line with the United States and to be able to move on.
The point I'm just really trying to get at is there's a lot of, I won't say triumphalism, but happiness, to use today's word, the word du jour, that the Oval Office business, the dinners that the Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary had with Mr. Trump, there's a lot of coming back and telling people like me that this is going to be great for us. But in the end, all the bowing and scraping, all the offers of dinners and all the rest of it made absolutely no difference.
I don't think that's true. I think the facts are very clearly to the counter of the argument. And look, there's a good thing that the United Kingdom has a good working relationship with the United States, as we do with the European Union and other allies around the world. It's a good thing that the Prime Minister has struck up a good relationship.
About Iran, they still got 10%.
Well, it's a good thing that our Prime Minister, which is also very different to that situation, has a good relationship with the President of the United States of America. It's always worked well for us as a country when we use our diplomacy and our ability to be able to influence the world and shape the world in our interest as best as we can, and that's what the Prime Minister and the government is doing.
All right, well, let me put this from the other side of this question, perhaps. You'd obviously preferred if there's no tariffs, but would you accept that Brexit has in fact protected us from the 20% hit being faced by the EU? You've mentioned it already this morning.
We've been treated differently to the European Union. That's correct.
That's part of the Brexit. That's a Brexit dividend.
It is. There's one. I've struggled to find one in the past, but there is one. We've ended up with lower tariffs.
It's a pretty big one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. But look, what we're not going to do is pick or kind of trade off the United States to the European Union. And I've already talked about our relationship with the United States. We know that's important and works well, but so is our relationship with the European Union on trade, on energy, but increasingly on security. And I think it's the right strategic decision for the UK, especially in this world that's chopping and changing around, that we have those strong bridges into the European Union and into the United States. And that's what we're working to deliver.
Well, this is a very interesting point, isn't it? I mean, I understand the Prime Minister's been on the phone to other European leaders over the last 24, 48 hours. You might want to tell us what he's been hearing from them. But essentially, he's promoted this idea of the UK as a bridge between the United States and Europe. But in the end, the Americans, for example, have insisted that any trade deal, we need to accept their chlorinated chicken. The EU has always insisted that we shouldn't touch the stuff. At some point, we are going to have to choose.
Yeah, and we're not going to lower food standards in the UK. I mean, I think we're pretty clear about that. But look, as I say, it's a good thing that we have a good working relationship with our allies. It's a good thing that the United Kingdom can have
trade
these
deals here. I mean,
well, whether it's on trade or whether
we're not
it's
talking
on
about whether we're nice to each other. At some point, somebody's got to sign.
This is diplomacy.
We're going to do this or we're going to do that.
Trevor, this is diplomacy. It's important. It's important that we have good working relationships like we do with the EU and the US. We'll continue to build on that, including with other trading partners and allies around the world. I think it's good that Britain is in a confident, forward-leaning position, fighting for the British economy, but also doing that diplomatic work, coordinating allies across the world on some of these issues. I think people at home like it when Britain can stand up tall in the world and be able to fight for our values and our interests.
What I'm hearing here is a cabinet minister essentially saying that we'd love to do some deal with the United States, but it looks like in the end we are going to have to get closer to Europe. So Jaguar Land Rover, OK, maybe the United States is over for a while. They're going to have to retilt towards the European Union.
I think we can get a good deal on both sides.
You can't both have chlorinated chicken and not have chlorinated chicken.
And I've been really clear that we are not having chlorinated chicken in the UK. So we can, but that doesn't mean we can't do...
no deal with the US?
But that doesn't mean we can't do a deal on technology, on energy, on security.
Well, that's interesting. Are we going to kill off the digital tax?
As I say, the negotiators are in the room right now talking about
Is that on the table?
These issues. I'm not going to give a running list.
Is the digital tax on the table?
I'm not going to give a running list about what's being talked about one way or the other than to say, as I've done, that like the chlorinated chicken accusation is not one that stands up, because we've been clear about our standards on that. But look, our negotiators are out there negotiating with the Americans. We've also got our counterparts talking with our partners in the European Union. Over time, I think we'll have some more detail coming out from that, and we'll be able to come back and show you the benefits of all of that work.
It sounds like pretty much everything's on the table with the United States, except possibly the chicken. But anyway, let's come back home. How many jobs do you estimate are going to be lost as a consequence of your national insurance rise that takes effect this week?
So let's just step back. What is the national insurance rise that's taking effect this week? We increased employer national insurance contributions at the budget last year. We had to do that to get a grip of the public finances from what we'd inherited from the Conservatives, and we chose to protect workers so that they don't pay more on their pay slips. Importantly, we designed the system in a way to try to protect smaller businesses, because we know that paying additional tax like this is not welcome. No one likes to pay more tax, right? And so over 50% of businesses in the UK will pay the same or less than they did before. So the impact on jobs, to answer your question, for smaller and medium-sized businesses will be a lower burden because we've protected them more in the system. Over 50% pay the same or less than they did before. Bigger businesses, those that have got maybe national chains or large employee bases, will have to pay more. But that, I think, in the circumstances, was the best trade-off that we had at the budget last year.
You think is the best trade-off? I mean, we could have a discussion about
the alternatives.
We could have a discussion about the impacts on smaller companies, and bear in mind that they also are going to have some problems anyway. But the bigger companies are already saying that they're going to have to trim jobs. Nick McKenzie, who's the boss of the pub chain Green King, turns over $2 billion a year, employs 40,000 people. He said yesterday that they're trimming their investment plans to pay for your increases in minimum wage, national insurance and business rates. This is not the Tories. This is you. So much for your growth plans.
Well, growth was projected up at the forecast in year 2, 3, 4 and 5, with a projection of disposable income.
The OBR just cut the growth forecast in half.
For 1 year, 25, 26, and they forecast it up in 26, 27, 27, 28, 29.
The 1 year is the year that we've got best visibility.
But we've got to be really clear, right? What the OBR said was that the decisions that we're taking as a government will increase the size of the UK economy and stimulate growth and improve people's disposable income. Look, as I said, I recognise that for employers that are having to pay more national insurance contributions, they would rather have that money to spend on other things. But we've had to take a decision in the country's interests where we were able to protect workers, our promise in the manifesto at the election, but we needed to get a grip of public spending. And as a consequence of that, we've been able to reduce NHS waiting lists every single month for the last 5 months as a direct consequence of our investment in public services. That is good for the economy because people who are sick and maybe can't be back to work are being made better and able to go back to work. That's good in the round.
Let me just, if I may, finally, show you something which we're coming up to the local elections, and your leader promised higher standards of politics and integrity and all the rest of it. I just want to share this with you because I saw it last night. This is the Labour Party's latest poster attacking reform and the Tories. There's nothing unlawful about it, but it's distasteful, isn't it?
Why?
I think that the overlay of these two people's faces seems to me unpleasant.
Why?
It just seems unpleasant to me. You think this is OK?
I think what it's showing is that you've got Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Reform Party and the leader of the Conservatives, who essentially are one and the same thing. They're having these arguments on the right of British...
Are you saying Farage and Badenoch are the same thing?
They're fighting in the same space on the populist right. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. And that's all we're saying at this election, whether you're voting Reform or Conservative, essentially you're voting for the populist right. I don't think that's the right choice for this country, and that's what we're saying to people with that poster.
Darren Jones, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Pleasure.